everyone. Today we are talking about this great article that was in Cointelegraph about virtual reality and cryptocurrencies and blockchain and how they intersect. It reminded me a lot of the book and the movie Ready Player One. Did you see that, Pam?
I read the book. It's been a few years, I think right after it came out. I have not seen the movie though. Should I watch it?
Yes, I would recommend watching it. And another interesting thing is that I'm being invited to a lot of crypto meetups in virtual reality now. So
Wait,
seems
really?
yes, seems to be the moment that
Oh, wow.
the outside is tough. So people are inside and connecting with other people through their avatars.
I didn't know that that had already started. Wow. Have you done one yet?
I did do one actually about a week ago, and it was great. Everybody, was talking and chatting, and their avatars were moving around, and it was just like we were there in person.
Okay, so you didn't see, so everybody had an avatar, so it's not like if you and I were doing it, you would see my face. It was like whatever I had chosen.
Whatever you choose as your avatar, yes.
Okay. Can you see that? Like the article touches upon that a lot about how that kind of environment would be like the perfect place for cryptocurrency to take off. Do you feel like it will become sophisticated enough that people are going to spend a lot of their time there in like these virtual worlds?
Well, if you look at Decentraland, which launched a few weeks ago, you can go into the virtual world there and buy property. And there were a lot of people going in there to buy property. So I think, yes, I think we're at that moment where exchanges of value will take place in virtual reality. It's kind of like what's already happening with gaming and token economies in gaming. So I do think we are at this moment, and virtual reality has languished a bit. There was a lot of hype, then it languished. And a lot of that was due to motion sickness with some of the headsets, lag times. But I think that has been perfected now to a point where it feels like a great experience. And yes.
The article talks about a little bit that crypto it's nowhere close to being like a mainstream asset, whatever word we decide to use, but it really isn't at mainstream adoption yet. And yet the author makes a good point about how virtual worlds will kind of accelerate that. Like, why do you think that is? Like, can you explain that in like a jargon-free way about what is it about the virtual world that makes the adoption of cryptocurrency faster?
Well, if you think about just Bitcoin right now, there are some merchants that do accept Bitcoin, but by and large, there aren't that many. And so given the volatility of Bitcoin, it's not being used as a currency. It's more used as a store of value. And I think consumer behavior in gaming or virtual worlds is accustomed to paying with things in tokens. And so I think that it doesn't require that leap of faith for a merchant to be able to accept it. You can program an environment where it is accepted, and you can trade it, and you can monetize some of the assets that you buy within the games. So I think that it's just consumer behavior. You're not walking around on the street with a digital wallet going, trying to spend your Bitcoin, but on your computer, it might be easier access.
Well, he makes the argument, or he quotes somebody who makes an argument that virtual economies will eventually eclipse the real world GDP, which is crazy to think about. He talks about how changes in the availability and use of disposable time will lead to lives that are very different from what we experience today. And I think when he says today, he definitely means like pre-coronavirus. What do you think about that? Do you have any guesses or speculation about, depending on how long we're all in quarantine, what that is going to do to the concept of how we spend our time? So I think like Zoom has become now such a part of our mainstream, like day-to-day parlance that work-life balance has just basically been obliterated. And if that's gone, then what's to say that people won't choose to spend most of their time like in VR?
Exactly. Well, from what I've seen since coronavirus started, gaming is up in a big way. So people are spending a lot of their time virtually in these worlds. And I think the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think that we are going to go fully back to the way things were. I think that people will realize that they can do a lot of transactions online, and they will continue to do so. And if they have a positive experience in these environments, then it might be somewhere where they feel comfortable going to connect with people. Multiplayer games. What do you think?
I've never done a virtual reality like meeting. I've never done something like that. I have played video games and I like it, but I personally can't imagine not wanting to meet with people in real life, at least to a certain extent. I feel like I'm like maybe a few generations out, maybe my kids or their kids will have that choice, and it'll be an attractive choice, just interact completely in VR. I know in Japan, a lot of that already exists from what the article was talking about. People are just having these relationships fully like in the VR space, and that's the majority of their time. I think it's too soon to really know what our world is going to look like once we're out of this. One thing that stuck out to me in the article was apparently like Facebook has something called Horizon. I had no idea they had entered the VR space, aside from like Oculus and their involvement with that.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either. So, I mean, if you think about Facebook and Libra, their attempts at a stable coin or virtual currency, and then they build the virtual world on top of it, right? Then it's like everything's going through Facebook, which presents a lot of antitrust issues for, they're already in hot water for that. So I wonder what will happen. So one of the things I thought was really interesting that he said was the lack of establishments in virtual worlds allows the pace of innovation to go faster. Do you agree with that?
You see that now with all the things going on with US suppliers not being able to get a hold of like a lot of the materials that they want to like make protective equipment, because they don't want to be flagged for price gouging when all they're doing is like meeting market needs. So they're not getting, like they're being outbid by European suppliers. It's just crazy. And like all these regulations that are preventing something so essential from happening. So yeah, I mean, if that's already preventing essential products in a time of crisis from being made, I mean, just imagine the level of innovation that's being kind of curtailed by these established players. And it's just really interesting to consider that in a virtual world, things like that don't exist.
Yeah, I think he makes a very interesting point. He says it took 3,000 years for humans to migrate from an agricultural economy to an industrial one, 300 years to transition to a service-based economy, and 30 more in the US until the advent of the digital era and its attendant gig economy. So he says there's a pattern here, and if blockchain can live up to its promises, true virtual economies may not stray far from it. I think we are on that trend of these technologies have been percolating for the last 10 years or so, and they're having a moment and they're intersecting in interesting ways. And I call that convergence. And so I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's crazy. It's having its moment, like you said. And a lot of that, I think we just never, maybe there weren't enough people experimenting with VR because, they had to go to work every day. And now a lot of people do have much more time on their hands than they did before. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see where that goes.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks for tuning in. Let us know what you think. And I'm going to be watching Ready Player One and also hoping for an invite to a VR meetup. Sounds really
I think I can get you in.